Welcome, dear audience, to This Week in Clown World, the video series dedicated to reliving the events of the simulation because yes, it's really happened and no, we weren't dreaming. Well, it's almost September now, if I'm not mistaken, it is harvesting time. So roll up, it's time to pick the ripe clowns of the week because it's a never-ending cycle of weak men doing commie she-height and I don't know if it's getting funnier or worse. Alright then, what we got? Well, remember a few weeks ago when we had an imported guest who invaded on a boat and was so thankful for the gesture of hospitality that the Soviet kingdom's government gave to him, you know, without the peasants' consent, that he decided he would go assault a child. And everybody was like, hell nah, time to get the flags out, boys, and go bully the government into listening to our demands considering these utter melts work for us, not the other way round. Well, boys, those protests actually worked, and the Epping hotel full of the dingy boat children with fully grown beards is getting closed down. And that came after the courts were like, yeah, we should probably do something about this now. Although, to be fair, they managed to get the Boatman Hotel closed down purely on a technicality because the planning permission from the councils to build the hotels were for paying customers who can go purchase a room, not a Boatman Express. And now, across the failed state, other councils are beginning legal action to get the boat children with fully grown beards out of their areas. It's a complete success, right? Wrong! We may think it is a victory, but it actually isn't, because they aren't going to be deported back to their shithole countries. Oh, no. They're now going to be put into HMOs, or houses of multiple occupancy if you don't know what that means, which will be located on residential streets, therefore even more boat people spread out widely so more children get enriched by the absolute filth the government have purposely imported here. And even worseer, the Labour Party are now challenging the ruling in court because apparently having a bunch of men with zero background checks and unclear motives remaining in hotels close to residences instead of getting deported is a really good idea. My god, I love this country so much it hurts. Yeah, we may have won the battle here, but we're still losing the war. None of these boat children are going to get deported, while the government keeps saying that their hands are tied and they can't deport them purely because they made the laws that tied their own hands together. At any point, at any time, the government can make laws, bend rules to deport all these weird people who broke into our country, but they won't do it, therefore are literally putting us and our children into serious danger, considering we haven't got a fucking clue who these people are. Meanwhile, Operation Raise the Colours, the peasant rebellion is getting even bigger and it is utterly gorgeous. And if you don't know what I'm on about or watched last week's video, let me spray you down with a nut bust of knowledge goo. Birmingham Council took down the Soyviet Jack from the flagpoles to celebrate Pakistan Independence Day, because for some reason, we do that here. And the indigenous peasants finally had enough of being slapped in the face with all the foreigners. So began putting Soyviet Jack and St. George's flags up on lampposts and on mini roundabouts, which is quite legendary because it's pissing off the council who, even though they were totally cool with the Palestine flag being up for months at a time, could not allow such a patriotic gesture by a bunch of native bigots. And you would have thought, alright, small little trend, it will die out pretty soon, no biggie. But if you thought that, then you would be wrong. Dead wrong with AIDS, because everywhere the spicy boys of the failed state are revolting against a culture that fucking hates them. Even the politicians are now getting in on it, like Robert Jenrick, the future conservatory leader who's trying to court the totally evil far right after Reform became a party, but just don't mention the part where he is directly responsible for all the shite we're doing now, considering he was part of the dildo government that for 14 years did fuck all and dismantled our entire country to be an international laughingstock. Fuck this guy. Fuck the rest of the Conservatory Party, they are all frauds, don't believe a damn word that these fallopian tubes are selling. Robert Jenrick doesn't care about this country. However, things are now getting spicy with the imported clientele, as a collection of brave peasants who put up our own national flag, and that's really bad, ended up getting diversitied by a bunch of foreigners who were so hurt about it, they chucked petrol bombs at them. Don't really know the full ins and outs, but that's the story I'm hearing right now. Alright then, what else happened? Well, inflation rose again, and in a complete lockstep, every media outlet immediately ran the exact same headline saying inflation has unexpected unexpectedly rose. Almost like every media outlet is centrally controlled and are purely a containment project using propaganda to dumbify the masses. Because this was pretty bloody obvious that it was going to go up, considering we have a regional bank complaints manager who somehow now runs the entire economy, putting up taxes on business so they need to increase the prices of their product to make ends meet. I mean, this is how contained the media are these days, who keep running stupid headlines like unexpected when everyone can see it. Even the Daily Mail, which is meant to be the conservative rag of the Soviet kingdom, run articles almost daily about how some slag made thousands of peasants' pounds on OnlyFans showing off her butthole and how all the women can do it. And then there's GB News pushing utter shite out of their buttholes, like how petrol and diesel cars are really stressful, unlike electric cars, when it's clearly a propaganda piece by the government, considering the centre video is all about the new EV government grants. Doesn't it sound very conservative to me? It stinks of paid-for content by the central control masters. So with inflation up and the peasants of these once fine lands shiting themselves at the coming dildo of tax rises forced upon us by a regional bank's complaint handler, you know, because we're already poor and will no doubt be eating shite for breakfast and the insulation from the loft for tea, we actually got a little bit of good news. Lucy Connolly has been released from prison after typing spicy words on the internet in the wake of horrific events at a Taylor Swift dance class. Then she reconsidered it, then deleted it off within like an hour or two, but because she did that really naughty thing without a license, the police were like, hell nah, you're not allowed to reconsider your actions and take grown-up steps to correct yourself, you're fucking Nick, mate, and you're going down for 3 years. Because remember, audience, Keir Starmer told the Orange Man we totally have freedom of speech in this country. Well, there's not a Ukrainian rent boy coming to save Keir Starmer now, because Lucy Connolly is planned to meet up with the Trump team and explain how freedom of speech doesn't actually exist in this country and it's all a shithouse of lies coming from a communist dictator. Oh lordy, imagine if Lucy Connolly said that stuff on the internet, then deleted it off and went down an abortion clinic to go pray in her head. It would have been 25 years to life. But personally, I would rather the United States just cut out all these meetings and just straight up invaded us. You know, kind of be like the Liberated becoming the Liberator. Because I want my AR-14, so hurry up, you tea-dumping traitors. Elsewhere, guys, our demonic overlords are going a little bit too mental now. First we had Eat the Bugs, then we had Live in the Pod, and then we had subscribe to heated seats in your own car for some reason. But now we have fake Bill Gates butter that nobody's going to buy just so they didn't buy any Beyond Meat crap, and also toothpaste made out of hair. What a weird time we live in. Well, actually, maybe not, because while the Bill Gates butter can get the fuck out of here, the hairy toothpaste, on the other hand, well, if you read past the headline, is actually pretty interesting, as the keratin within hair acts to replace the lost enamel, therefore protecting the teeth from decaying. Alright, I'm gonna say it, hairy toothpaste sounds weird, but that's not a clown world, it's actually potentially really cool. Well done for thinking outside of the box, you dental researchers. But if you thought that there could not be a sub-Saharan African tribe in the middle of Scotland with like tents and shit, fighting the cause of the Jacobites, trying to reclaim ancestral lands from Queen Elizabeth I, then my god, you're not only dead, but you're dead wrong with AIDS. Because apparently, there is a tribe south of Edinburgh in a forest, and they recently found a missing Texas birthing person living amongst them who was assumed missing and also doesn't want to go back or something. Look, I have absolutely no idea what's going on here, but I fully support their decision to, let me check my notes, reclaim Scotland or something? There, we got bigger things to fry. Because we're heading to space, boys, where I'm starting to get a little bit nervous, because if you remember a few weeks back where I alerted everybody to the coming alien invasion and how we're all better be ready to clap some green alien cheeks, well, something really odd is happening because that 3i Atlas, the intergalactic space rock currently cruising it on a very sus trajectory through our solar system, now apparently is displaying signs of artificial light. Therefore it must be Cthulhu or something. Yes, just when you thought it was all safe, it turns out we're not safe at all. And there is definitely not a single explanation that can explain this phenomena other than the fucking aliens, and there is no misrepresenting the data data or anything. Yeah, my theory is just another NASA scam to control us and the Earth is entirely flat. I mean, come on, what's next? NASA gonna tell us that there's an Epstein list? And George Bush did 9/11? Get the fuck out of here! So with our impending doom coming, Colombia went full retard and decided, you know what? If we haven't got much time left, how's about we hire an LGTV transformer as our Vice Minister for Women, because he will definitely understand the struggles that women face. And you know, since all women are dumb heads with really small brain, they do need a man to tell them what to do. And talking of men doing men things, well, remember that time when Disney were like, my god, a large portion of our Star Wars and Marvel IP enjoyers are men, and that's really bad. So we must make everything about a super strong woman of power, and all the men must now be monged out in the background, getting cuck shedded on every dialogue tree. Well, it turns out that was yet another dumb decision by the ideologically possessed creeps, because my god, Disney have been humiliating themselves for quite a while now, and the men are no longer watching. So instead of doubling down like they do every other time by calling the audience really racist and homophobes or some kind of stupid shite, they suddenly thought, oh no, we need to produce media that caters to the male audience because we decided on our own backs to isolate and piss off 50% of our potential market. Whoa, well done Disney, what an absolute slam dunk of marketing strategy right there. I bet it cost them millions of dollars in consultants to come up with that one. I would have done it all for free. Alright, moving on, because it's time for the orange man to do orange things. Well, the Epstein files beside, man hasn't that orange man been on a bit of a blinder lately, because after the takeover of Washington DC's law enforcement following the attack on Big Balls, it turns out not listening to commie mayors and doing what the people in elected government should do, you know, keep the people safe from avoidable harms, well, crime is now falling pretty hard. But obviously, because it was did by the orange man, just like always the opposing side drops their trousers and begins shitting on the pavement. Like this unfortunately indoctrinated cult member who may have had her car jacked and her arm broken, but at least in Chicago, she doesn't have any Republicans. Jesus, Mother Mary of Christ, this is the very definition of living on the plantation. Shouldn't matter who is in charge, the social contract is, you pay the government money through taxes under the threat of law, and they are obliged to do their utmost to protect you from utter scum. Hence why, in the UK, it's literally on the cliff edge of major social unrest, because we paid our taxes, and the government purposely put us all in serious danger. Furthermore, the Orange Revolution is also including the smartest thing he's done yet, trying to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines. Because the only way to uphold a democracy is by mailing in a ballot and using hackable machines. You don't need a paper trail, bro. Man, I think California is turning red come 2028 because there'll be no illegal immigrants to vote for the Democrats, and their corpses can finally rest in peace knowing that they no longer have to vote for Biden. But what nobody was expecting to come this week was Cracker Barrel doing the Bud Light moment of the century and absolutely humiliating themselves. When will these brands realize turning wholesome and world-renowned icons into boring, bland corporatist logos is actually a really bad idea? You know, like Jaguar. Well, Cracker Barrel got rid of the barrel and now look like every other bland outlet with zero soul. And because everybody disliked that, their stonk price hit the fucking road and nobody's now investing. And to think, they were just recovering from firing Brad's wife and now they had this shit to contend with. Some would suggest, hey, why don't you just leave the logo how it is because everybody recognizes it and you literally call Cracker Barrel and it's got a fucking barrel in it. But those people would be wrong. Dead wrong with AIDS. Big shout out to my boys and guys. My mummy told me not to kiss the bigots, but she didn't realise I don't listen to women, so pucker up boys, we're going to Paris. Love you all very much, Lee.
Subscribe button.
Is always right.